In my previous video, I talked about Yoshio Sakamoto's EPD Group 7 and said that I'd speculated all the way back in 2023 that the team had, to all intents and purposes, ceased to exist. My speculation over the years is that, like the other Me-related game Miitopia and the Switch Sports series, it would join EPD Group 4. However, the credits seem to show that there was a core team of perhaps a dozen people from Miitomo and the previous Tomodachi Life, around whom Nintendo had essentially created a whole new team, potentially from the ashes of the old EPD Group 7. Well, this Ask the Developer interview seems to suggest that whatever this new team may be, they are very much under the aegis of EPD Group 4, making Group 4 by now one of the largest and most diverse teams out there, a team I'd suggest that is very likely to be subdivided in the years to come as Nintendo moves into its new developer HQ. For now, though, let's deep dive into the Tomodachi Life Ask the Developer interviews. All the key staff here are identified as being with Production Group 4, and so I think we can assume that Group 7 is indeed in the dust. Curious also is the absence of the producer of Yoshio Sakamoto himself. This doesn't necessarily mean he's retired, but it does seem unusual for a key producer not to turn up to an interview about the product. It's also notable that none of these people are given specific credits. The way Nintendo's operations seems to work these days, as far as I can tell, is that there's a hub of career producers who sit outside of the main development groups, although they're generally associated strongly with them. Aonuma with EPD3, Yabuki with EPD9, and so on. They then seem to recruit teams internally, and we've seen examples of this, such as with Dragon Drive, where we see people from across different groups working together. It's not a surprise that these people, with respect to their work on Tomodachi Life, are simply credited as being part of the Group 4 pool of talent, but it does make you wonder whether any of these people will be internally promoted to management or whether a different coordinating producer will be drafted in. If this is the case, the most obvious candidate for Tomodachi Life, I'd have said, would be the supervisor and EPD4's newest credited producer, Takeyuki Shimamura, but he's not in this particular Ask the Developer interview. Of course, with a game so long in development, perhaps that's unsurprising, and he may not have been involved with the development of this title until the very end. At any rate, I think we can confirm that EPD is a thing of the past, although of course Nintendo could always reassign the number to a new group or a subdivision of a current group. My guess, though, is that we will see a more comprehensive renumbering at some point soon. I'll link a video at the end that goes into those prospects in much more depth. While in previous videos I've done a line-by-line deep dive for these Ask the Developer interviews, I'm not going to have the time for that currently, but I would like to address a few points that were raised during the discussions. The full text is linked below for those interested, as it is definitely worth a read, especially of course if you're interested in the new Tomodachi Life game. So it seems that development was estimated to have begun in 2017 after Miitomo's development settled down, which is pretty much what I said in the prior video, although my guess is that full development only geared up much more recently. I'm sure that the full team hasn't been hanging around on that game all for these years. Ryotaro Takahashi was there right at the start of the development, and if there's anybody who seems destined to take over the reins of the property, it is Takahashi, who after all was there since its inception. It amuses me to imagine a counterfactual world where Tomodachi Life, rather than Metroid Prime 4, was announced so incredibly early in the Switch's life and was the title that never seemed to emerge through the whole generation. It also makes you wonder what games currently being worked on won't actually end up coming out until the mid-2030s. The developers discuss spending 6 or 7 years continually adding new ideas and doing extensive playtests. This, it seems to me, is the kind of luxury few corporations would offer their development staff, especially given how successful Tomodachi Life was on 3DS, and how this game would have been such an obvious major title to follow up Animal Crossing New Horizons earlier in the 2020s, as well as likely becoming a major seller in its own right. However, there is a discussion during this Ask the Developer interview about how they came up with so many different ideas, and it seems that it started from canvassing wide opinion from the developers, with Kageyama noting, We set up an idea board where anybody on the development team could share their ideas. Now, this is the third time in recent years we've heard some variation on the same kind of concept. Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Zelda Echoes of Wisdom also involved canvassing the entire team, and this does seem to be something distinctive of the new generation of Nintendo. Obviously, with these smaller groups in the 90s, it was an easier matter for everybody to become intimately involved with aspects of production, and indeed, we know specific responsibilities were given to particular people, such as how Kazuaki Morita took it upon himself to design the Ocarina of Time fishing minigame and only showed his supervisors once he had basically completed it. He did it pretty much in his spare time. Or of course there's how Yoshiaki Koizumi and Kensuke Tanabe teamed up on the plot to Link's Awakening, influenced by 90s cult hit Twin Peaks. But yet again, in that case, it was a case of a little bit of subterfuge because they felt that Miyamoto was busy elsewhere, and so they could create their Zelda game, which was effectively a pastiche of other Zelda concepts without too much oversight. Former top-down Zelda superstar turned Super Mario Bros. Wonder director Shiro Mori is quoted in Casey McDonald's book Super Nintendo as saying, "The really important thing is that we get ideas from a lot of different places and people. I myself am a programmer, but regardless of whether you're in design, art or programming, regardless of age, we gather ideas from everyone. I think that's a very important part of how we develop games." While this may not sound like a Nintendo where Miyamoto would bowl into the room, task people with a cryptic mission like developing a spherical platformer or giving Samus an insect's head, in certain respects you can see this right from the off in terms of the corporate culture, or at least from the period of time when they've been developing video games. Gunpei Yokoi was hired to maintain assembly lines on the Hanafuda cards, and yet of course ended up developing the Game Boy. Miyamoto and Koizumi both started out not as programmers, but as artists. For that matter, so were EPD chief Shinya Takahashi and new EPD8 lead Kenta Motokura. And of course, Satoru Iwata pivoted from programming to running the company, although to be fair, he had extensive experience running HAL Laboratory first. It's probably reasonable to say that Nintendo has always been open to the unexpected idea, but nevertheless it strikes me that this particular approach of canvassing opinions so widely right at the beginning is something that has seemed a more conspicuous part of their core strategy in recent years, and I do wonder sometimes if this is the influence of Yoshiaki Koizumi, a man never short of an idea or two, and now the general manager of EPD, only under Shinya Takahashi. At any rate, the developers also discuss using real-world food and currencies linked to the particular regions the player is playing the game with. So if you play with the Japanese region selected, you get rice balls and you use the currency of yen. I wonder how much getting this right added to the development time, since I guess that Nintendo games don't require so much region specificity as a rule. The rest of the interview is also well worth a read. There's lots of details, the obligatory game chat plug, and it ends with a delightful picture of the core team in both real life and Mii forms, making yet more pointed the absence of Sakamoto. Nevertheless, one of the most fun aspects here is actually the Development HQ Island, in which the Tomodachi Life team recreated their own office in Mii form, representing their own offices in Tomodachi Life. While I wouldn't have said it's something that we can expect to take too seriously, it is a rare peek behind the curtain at what things are actually like in Nintendo HQ. That's it for this video, but for more on how Nintendo's development groupings could look in just a few short years, do check out one of my favourite videos on screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, thanks to the channel's Patreon backers, and I look forward to seeing you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.